What's up, everybody? It's Peter Tragos, the lawyer you know, and on this channel, we break down the trials and cases you care most about so you can understand how the American civil and criminal justice system works. And we try to make sure you understand what your rights are in every situation, which is why we try to walk you through the entire legal process while also answering your insightful questions along the way. And while it's not legal advice, it's always exciting. So buckle up for another episode of The Lawyer You Know. What's up, everybody? It's Peter Tragos, the lawyer you know, and we have another update in this Idaho tragedy case where the victim's family is speaking out again. And one of the things he said in a prior interview is that he was going to let law enforcement talk to his lawyer. His lawyer was going to be his mouthpiece. Well, it seems like he is at least still going to do some of the PR statements, speaking out, asking for help. And it's clear that his motivation behind this is to try to catch who did this, try to keep the pressure on, try to keep the attention on this case. It really reminds me a lot of Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie, how the families are really doing everything they can publicly to come together as a nation, as a community, to try to get justice in this case. So I want to just do a recorded video here. It's not live, but you can throw your questions in the chat. I'll probably be in the chat. If not, I will get to the questions later. We're going to continue to follow this case. And again, it's interesting because the lawyer is on this interview as well, but the victim's father, Mr. Goncalves, talks way more than the attorney. So it's just an interesting dynamic. And that's what I wanted to bring to you, because that's what we're kind of following, is how is the lawyer affecting this process? So if you're interested in this case and you're going to continue to follow this case with us, hit that like button, subscribe to our page if you haven't already, and let's get to it. And it's pretty interesting to hear just right off the bat how and why the victim's father is working with different news outlets to try to keep this case from going cold.
And joining me now is the father of Kaylee Goncalves, Steve Goncalves, as well as their family's attorney, Shannon Gray. Steve, thanks so much for joining the program. Again, I made a promise to you that our audience would stay on this case and not let this case die. We had a cooling off period last.
So he made a promise to him that he would stay on this case and not let this case die. So, you know, unfortunately, there is a world of money here and eyes and everything, but it's mutually beneficial, right? People are watching this show on Fox News, and people are staying informed and staying on top of this investigation and hopefully finding the people that did this. So everybody wins at the end of the day because we're all following it. We get to see and try to help and make sure all eyes that could find some kind of information will know who to reach out to, when, how, why, and be able to continue this investigation towards justice.
We got to respect for law enforcement to bring the temperature down a little bit.
They took a break last week out of respect for law enforcement to bring the temperature down, but it sounds like now they're ready to turn the temperature back up. And again, to me, that was probably upon advice of counsel, who is on the right of my screen, who told Mr. Goncalves that maybe we let it tone down a little bit with the PR stuff, but they didn't find him last week. So now it seems like they're turning the temperature back up. And it's all interesting. These are all strategy moves to try to accomplish a goal. That's what lawyers do, right? They're problem solvers and they're trying to solve a problem. And the problem now is catching the person that did this. So now they're turning the temperature back up. And we're learning that whether or not they're saying it.
What new can you tell us, Steve? I know we got this new surveillance video that was released by our digital team today. What can you tell us?
That film, to the family, we've had that film for a while. I believe the business reached out to us directly. And
another indication, they are heavily involved. They are talking to the businesses, the witnesses, where the videos are, the coroner. We know they're talking to everybody, law enforcement. They have an investigator on it. They have a lawyer on it. It's unusual for the victims to really be this involved and out in front of an investigation. It really is unusual.
After they had given it to the police. So it was kind of comforting to us, because it's just two girls having a good time talking about, asking about their bartender and just being girls on their way to the grub truck.
Yeah, so you don't suspect that this guy, Adam, that's stated in the video is somehow a suspect or anything like that. You guys have known about this video for a while.
We have, and we asked, and we did the obvious due diligence when we looked into that, and we were pretty was pretty clear that this individual was not a part of the investigation as far as a suspect.
Good copy. So, Steve, what can you tell us about the investigation thus far? We've heard about the car details being released as well. Is there anything that we can do to get some answers for you guys so we can get this suspect, whoever it is, in custody?
They've kind of informed us through communications that they've checked all the easiest paths. So like if this individual had this car registered to his name and it was just something very quick that they could just look up in the area and go right to his house, they've done all the due diligence there. They've done all that. So now they're reaching out and they're going to look to the community, see if this individual borrowed this car. It doesn't appear that it's something that they have real easy access to. So he may have ran, and they really pushed the narrative saying, hey, if we can get these guys to focus on something that's really helpful, which is this car, and, find out if somebody says, hey, that car, that looks a lot like mine, I'm going to come forward and just volunteer my information. And then, they can figure out if somebody else had borrowed it or if it.
So they want everybody that has this kind of car, this white Hyundai, to come forward so they can rule out as many of them as possible. And some reports have come out that a car that matches its description was found, I think, in Oregon. It was in another state with front end damage, no license plate on it. And they're doing an investigation to see, they're working with Moscow police to see if it is actually the car in question. It seems like they're not getting a lot of solid answers there, but they are processing thousands of these cars that match this description, because this is the biggest piece of evidence it seems like we have at this point. And again, through decisions of counsel and Kaylee's dad here, they are trying to promote this even more, going on Fox News and news stations and saying, here's the car. If you own this car, come forward. Let us know. Has anybody borrowed it recently? Has it been missing recently? This is a strategic decision to try and get more information on the one piece of evidence that they feel like they can dig into a little bit more. If another piece comes up where they find the murder weapon, or if they get some other information or some other video that has somebody wearing a specific hoodie, they will probably do another show. So this is creating a pattern of the strategic decisions that the victims' families and their lawyers are making to try and do everything they can to try to catch who did this. And this is what lawyers do. They construct this plan to try to accomplish this goal.
Heck, who knows?
Steve, we talked about this off air. But one of the reasons why I want to bring this up is because I think it's critical to this investigation. A lot of these young people were teenagers, and there may have been some illicit activity that was minor that they would have gotten in trouble for, and it may be preventing them from coming forward. What can you tell these young people to kind of motivate them to give up some answers? Don't worry about all the petty stuff. 4 innocent lives were lost here.
So before he answers this, there was also, I guess we can show it actually. Go ahead. We'll listen to this, then we'll also show the other thing I was going to mention.
Yeah, I want kids to understand that this is such a big case that these guys have their hands full. I wanted to go out there and tell everyone that we support the Gonzalez family, support the local police officers, so much so that we want them to be able to work on this case. I know that this is way over the normal workload that they normally have. Plus, they have patrols. They have to patrol now. This guy's not caught. So.
And I think that's really important. And that's, again, something that may have been suggested by his lawyer. Come out, let everybody know you support local police, because there are probably a lot of people that do support local police that are a little frustrated with how you're handling the process as the victim's family, and maybe coming out and support will help more people come forward. And again, like the anchor said on the show, forget about the petty stuff. Let's get the justice that these 4 innocent lives deserve. And again, he's calling out for action. It's a call to action. And this is the plan. I mean, it's really all they have, right? What else can they do? Law enforcement is putting more resources on this than they ever have, probably for small town Idaho. And so they're doing everything they can. And so Mr. Gonzalez and his legal team and his investigators are trying to do what they can and get the word out there. And news stations are trying to help them do that.
There was some rumors that I called these officers a coward. That was not for these officers. That was for a lawyer that was standing in between what the officers would like to release and what is actually being released.
Interesting. So the attorney, maybe for the police department, he's saying is the coward, not local law enforcement. It definitely sounded like when I read some of the quotes that he was calling law enforcement cowards, but he's saying absolutely not local law enforcement. I'm thankful for what they're doing. It's a lawyer that was a coward, you know, shocker, taking shots at lawyers. But hey, he's entitled to do that, right? He is doing, like we said a million times, as the victim's family in this case, he's doing everything he can for one purpose and one goal, to find who did this. And so we're with the victims, big fans of justice on this channel.
And I called that individual, and this was just about coming forward and saying that the profile is a male. You know, I feel like at a month we can rule that that's not going to hurt the case. It's pretty clear. Even, you know, the coroner said this was a very strong individual. 2 people had defensive wounds, overpowered those people. So I'm just trying to get steer the conversation into a way. So I have another son. I have another person who's going to school there, and I don't want him walking around those streets if it's not safe. So, you know, we know as a family what we're looking for. And, you know, if they see an individual looking a certain way, I'm telling my kids, you know, steer clear of that.
Steve,
but
this
I
is
want
your
other families to know.
Steve, this is your first, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, brother, but this is your first Christmas without Kaylee. How you doing? How's your family doing?
Brutal.
To be honest, we're not even really going to have a Christmas because you just can't get yourself there to where it would make sense. One of my children, the youngest one, is going to go stay with some families because they're going to have the normal type Christmas, and she deserves that. But for us, we can't do that. It's too close to our heart. And how do you have a celebration like this when you've lost 2 of your favorite people in the world?
Yeah, brother, we continue to pray for you, our audience as well. Thank you so much for joining the program.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, Sean Hannity.
So the lawyer didn't even say one word, right? But he was there the whole time, in a brutal, brutal story. And that's why we're doing it, right? We left that last part in because that's why the news stations, law enforcement, everybody's trying to come together as a community to try to get them some justice. We can't stop what happened. We can't take it back, but some kind of justice to catch who did this is really all we can look for at this point. And I wanted to share another couple videos that was interesting, or that I found interesting. So there was a noise complaint in September, I believe, at this house. And a lot of people are asking, why is this taking so long? What's it mean that there's layered evidence? So I'm going to pull this up here, and I watched a couple different clips of it. And generally speaking, there was a noise complaint. They came to the house. None of the 4 people that lived at the house were actually there. But there was potentially underage drinking, noise complaints, things like that. Obviously a party going on in the house. Law enforcement knew that parties were going on in the house. This is some of the petty stuff that doesn't really matter that they're talking about, but it could make sense why some people are not coming forward to testify or give statements if they're young people and they were partying there, underage drinking there, maybe drugs or whatever it may have been that they were doing there. And maybe it is stifling some of the statements or comments that could come and actually be helpful. Maybe something happened at one of these parties that could connect them to the perpetrator in this case. But because of things like this, because of threats of even petty crimes or smaller or lesser crimes, that could stifle some of the statements in the case. Let's see these clips here.
We're only here for a noise complaint. Come to the damn door.
So the officer starts by saying, we're only here for a noise complaint. Come to the door.
Start the search. I just ring the doorbell.
Kind of weird that there is even a noise complaint here when it's like in the middle of college town, sorority. He's like, in the video in one of these clips, he says, we know they're sorority girls. We know they're affiliated with a sorority. You guys partying here? Are you trespassing because the people aren't here? So, I mean, it's weird that there was a noise complaint. Seems like there'd be a lot of parties around this area, but.
Here for a noise complaint. Whoever lives here needs to come talk to us, or we're going to start doing a lot more.
and just deal with noise.
Go tell them.
Yeah, just tell them to come to the front door. We'll deal with the noise complaint, and we'll leave. Yep, thank you.
And everybody's going to dissect these videos, picking apart, looking for clues. Like it says, does newly released body cam footage hold new clues? Because they walk around the house, they look in the windows, things like that. But to me, it shows why it's so difficult to get through this evidence. It also shows why some people may not be coming forward because some minor illegal activity may have been going on.
Not leaving.
They're scared.
Oh my God.
He says they're scared. Two young gentlemen come to the door, talk to them a little bit, and then eventually they call Maddie Mogan, one of the victims in the case, and she picks up and talks to law enforcement.
Police
So
Department.
let's just
Who
hear
am I
that
speaking
real
with?
quick.
Maddie, 1 second. Let me turn the volume up on this phone here.
People want to be dumb.
All right, can you hear me, Maddie?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. Do you live at 1122 Queen Street?
Yes, I do.
Okay. So, hey, the reason that we're here is that we received a noise.
P.S. She sounds totally lucid and with it and not inebriated at all. But she was not there when this was all happening, which is, again, another indication of the mystery of all this. Things were happening at this house without any of them there. Was the perpetrator there? Is that how they knew how to maneuver through the house? Did they know somebody was at this party, or these parties were frequent so people could be coming and going? That's all of the stuff where maybe some people don't understand how it's possible to not know who was coming and going in a house, or how DNA evidence hasn't come forward yet. When you're in a college town and it's a house that has a lot of parties and people coming in and out, neighbors coming over. One of the guys said he was a neighbor. He doesn't even really know the people that live there. That actually happens at college parties, right? All of us that went to college, you end up at a party. You don't even know who lives there. You don't even know whose house it is. You're there with a friend of a friend, hanging out, playing beer pong, whatever it may be, hanging out with your friends. And that's what it seems like happened at this house, which makes the DNA evidence so difficult, which means connecting people that would know the whereabouts of who was in what room so difficult. That makes the connection to different people on campus so difficult. And that's what law enforcement is having to sift through. And the attorney on the case like this is trying to get all this out there, because if there's anything that's jogging your memory, getting something like this out there, again, will help the news anchor say things like, put the petty crime stuff or anything you're scared of behind you. We need to focus on the goal and catching who did this. And that is what, having a legal team and a team of investigators, as the victims' families have hired, to try and continue going forward in this investigation and learning new details.
Complaint of loud music, partying. Okay. Once we approached the house, people started running away. They left a bunch of alcohol behind. We're not even coming for alcohol. We're coming for the noise complaint. And then we sat here for.
Even they're saying, like, whatever, underage drinking. It's a college town. We're just coming for the noise complaint because somebody complained, but we need some answers, and none of you guys are even here.
Approximately 10 minutes trying to knock on the door. No one would come to the door until these two gentlemen came down and actually answered the door. So,
Gotcha.
and what's your first name? Maddie? And how do you spell that, Maddie?
My legal name is Madison. It's Madison.
What's your middle name, Madison?
They go through her date of birth, address, things like that.
They've already said that no one here lives at,
And then this is just, we'll listen to the last minute of the video, how nobody that lives there is actually there.
None of the occupants that live at this address are here right now. So now you have a house full of random people. You need to let them know that the noise needs to come down. Okay. We just received a noise complaint. We want that music turned down. And we don't want to come back again tonight. If we have to come back again tonight, then there's going to be even more problems. Okay.
I see both sides.
Sounds good. I'm just as frustrated. I'm also sorry once again.
If I were you guys, I'd probably just come home and make sure that whoever is partying here is keeping it down to a minimum. Okay.
Yeah. We're
All
gonna
right.
pick all of them.
Okay. So at this point, we're going to leave. Okay. And again, if I have to come back later tonight, like I said, I just want to express that there's going to be some citation.
So a lot can really be learned from this, right? The fact that there are tons of people there partying, noise complaint, None of them are even there. So there are things going on at that house that they don't even know about clearly. And that just makes the investigation very difficult, especially when you think about the other roommates or people that were staying there that were passed over by the perpetrator, and how, again, how it may not be abnormal for somebody to come through late at night or in the middle of the night and then leave and you not even know that they were there. So I think what this new body cam footage really shows us is the atmosphere of what it was like and why this investigation is difficult and why it's not just some retired couple's house that only their family members or a couple friends come over. So when we have DNA of an unknown person, then it makes it a lot easier to try to figure this thing out. This is going to be a lot more difficult, which is why the delay. But I think the legal team that the Goncalves family has put together is really going to help continue this investigation along. Every tidbit, you never know what's going to bring somebody forward with more information that's going to keep this case from getting cold. So we're going to keep following. I mean, the lawyer sat through that entire interview and didn't say one word, but you better believe he prepared his client prior to that interview. He wanted to be on there to hear what was said in that interview. If they need to react, if they need to correct anything, if he needed to step in, he was there. And a lot of times lawyers can just be there as the backup to step in if they need to. So if you have any questions, let me know. If you're interested in me continuing to follow this case and what the lawyer does specifically and the team that the victim's family has built, what they're doing in this investigation, keeping it rolling, let me know in the comments and hit that like button on the way out. Appreciate you all for joining me.